Hello and welcome into a special edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. Of course, I am your mayor of the postseason and your mayor of the World Series, occasionally known as Derek Montilla. That is Patty Plantain over there. You know that guy. It's Patrick Lyons from DNVR. But this guy right here, the number one snake enthusiast in the world, Jake from Jomboy. Thank you so much for being here, man.
What's going on,
Appreciate
fellas?
you, dude.
I'm glad to be back. And man, Patty's a little surprise for me. I mean, there's some old Denver days back in there, pre-pandemic times. So man, I'm excited to be here. Took the flight in this morning. I'm taking a red eye out tonight. And I really hope the filling in the middle is nice.
Yeah.
So far, it's great.
Worth it.
So far, it's great. So yeah, I just hope. I hope around 8 p.m. this time zone, I'm feeling good and I feel rewarded.
Yeah, we hope the same thing. We hope the same thing. Now, we are glad you are here to protect the pool in case things don't go our way tonight, because I know that you are not going to allow any tomfoolery or shenanigans to go on in that pool.
I have been told that I will be getting a lifeguard shirt.
Okay.
I am told I have 0 actual lifeguard powers.
Okay. Did they give you a tower to sit in?
I think even if someone is drowning, I'm not supposed to go. No, that makes sense. They're like, please do not do that.
The advice is just to say, stand up, and then you've saved their life. Stand, put your feet.
Drowning. And hopefully, I don't know where I'm at with the pool because again, I'm red-eyeing tonight.
Yeah.
And if I'm wet at Phoenix International Airport at 11.
Yeah.
Smelling of bleach.
I guess it'd be really bad for the person next to me. So we'll see where we're at.
Well, we know we talked to you before. We know we talked about, obviously, preseason thoughts on this team and where they are at now. So I guess my biggest thought is how glad are you that you were wrong, and how exciting has it been to watch these guys get to this point?
It's how I laid it out before the season. I laid it out as a win-win. I was like, you know what? I'm going to take the Vegas under.
Mm-hmm.
Padres. Whoa, what's going on with those guys?
No kidding.
Dodgers ended up dodgering, and then this was kind of the pivot year for San Francisco, where they missed out on a bunch of the free agents, but they were still kind of preaching that like San Francisco Giants, the culture, like they were trying to be almost baseball's Miami Heat or something like that, and that's kind of out the window. Gabe's gone now.
Yeah.
And for the Snakes, the tweet that I keep going back to for myself was I thought it was going to be the year before the year.
Yes.
Like I thought the Padres were going to have to flush this thing out. I thought the Giants were kind of in limbo, and the Snakes, I thought they could have a very successful season and win 74, 75 games. If, they could see some of the young guys. I mean, where Brandon Pfaadt's at now is crazy to where he was a couple weeks ago, huh?
Yeah.
And, just around the horn, Corbin Carroll kind of has cemented who and what he should be in baseball, or at least a baseline. And then some of the other guys, and now
look at where they're at.
It's
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane to us. I've constantly said it. Like, it's just, I still can't believe that they're here.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is, like, this postseason run was very fun, has been, so much fun to watch, but it also has like lasting ramifications on the organizations just due to the experience. And again, the desire to be back here, in future years, and to know that you can do it, to believe in yourself.
It's in there. And obviously, hey, no off-season talk now.
I know.
We don't need to do that.
No, that's loser talk.
We got
we
3 games to win.
Absolutely.
There's a couple topics out there. I think mostly fun ones now, though, because you've done this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, just to get it to this point, and we were joking right before we turned the mics on a little bit, going back to when we both lived in Denver. Like, for an organization to feel that, like, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, the Rocks now have been, when was it, 2018, 2019, when they started selling and fading, and now it's going to be 2024 next year, and there's going to be 4 teams favored in the division above them again. So to have this with the youth movement, and I guess here's my biggest upsell that I've thought of. I call them shower thoughts when I'm in the shower and I just let the brain wander and see where we land.
It's a good time.
Phoenix as a city has grown a crazy amount.
Yeah.
Crazy amount. Snakes, obviously there's the 0-1 ring. The team was started a few years before that. This market should be such a massive baseball market between spring training.
Yes.
And the comparison I keep going to, which is a little overstepping my boundaries, but the Golden State Warriors franchise before Steph Curry was not a thing.
Yeah.
It was, Baron Davis had some fun teams, Steven Jackson, and then you're going back to Chris Mullin.
Chris Mullin's the sexy name.
I mean, we're talking early 90s
Tim Hardaway.
that I think for this city that's growing, for where the stadium's located and just everything going on, like this can be massive. And this sports town is having like a moment right now, I think, with the Suns being contenders. Yeah. I think when that's all in, like, I think this can be so huge for the future of Diamondbacks baseball because, again, not thinking about the offseason because we got 3 games to win. Yeah. But, like, when it comes to free agency, like, this should be a team that's in the mix. And I think the team they're playing right now, Texas, hopefully becomes a part of MLB's mold because they've done it all. I mean, they've got young guys on their team. They've traded, but they also made impact free agent moves. Yeah. And we just need more of that because, I mean, when you look around and you see, like, a team like the Chicago White Sox have never given out like $100 million. It's like, what?
Yeah, Benintendi's
like, what are we doing, guys? So, I don't know. That got a little Jake Rambly. But
no. But you're right though, because like it's the 100-loss season thing, right? Yeah. You have a lot of teams now that are encouraged by what both of these teams did. The Rangers, 2 seasons ago, 100+ losses. Diamondbacks, 110 losses, right? So it's like for both teams to turn it around the way that they have and get here, and 2 seasons later. If nothing more, if your franchise is struggling and you're in that position, you can look to these 2 teams and say, look how quickly we can go from where we're at to where we could be in that promised land.
Every team except the Rockies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Two more years. 2 more years they're in the World Series. That's the math, Jake. Don't you get this?
Man.
2025, Rockies are going to the World Series.
They broke me. Right? I kind of had an NL West Coast free agency. And it came down to the Rockies and the Snakes.
Yes.
Snakes social media team kind of ran out the, when you see the college recruit go there and they put them on the scoreboard and it's like touchdown Jake. Snakes won, and now I'm sitting pretty. I'm Evan Longoria right now.
It's not awkward. It's not awkward with me here at all.
No, man. I mean, dude, what that stadium has going and that city's awesome. Yeah. But the fact that they haven't figured out any sort of baseball game plan and coming up on 30 years now.
Well, we just celebrated the 31st
This was 31.
Season. Yeah. God. So it's been wild. I think one of the most enjoyable things about the Diamondbacks this year is that, like you said, this was supposed to be the bridge year of like, okay, they're gonna be good in 2024. That's their year. And so it's just they've been playing with house money. It's like, wow, this team, look at all these 23-year-olds hitting home runs, 12 now home runs this postseason by guys age 23 or younger. And you go, man, they're going to be really good for a couple years. And you almost forget that, hey, wait a minute, they could do it this year. And they continue to do it against the Phillies when they're down 3-1. And they win 2 games in the Fortress at Citizens Bank Park. And you go, well, wait a minute, forget about the future. Let's talk about 2023. And they still can do that now and kind of repeat what the Chicago Cubs did in 2016. They were down 3-1, came back to win it. Diamondbacks, don't count them out.
Win 1 game. I'll be guarding the pool, and hopefully I can help out with that. Maybe like a Jeffrey Mayer type situation. If there's a ball coming in, I can help out. But you win 1 game today, you have to go on the road to win 2 games to win a series. They just did that against the Phillies, who similar teams to the Texas Rangers, if we're being honest. And I don't know, man. The answer backs, the rally backs, they've done it. They did it twice last series. That it was like, it's over. 10-0 the Phillies. We're down 2-0. It's over. Yeah. And then going back to Philly. So, I don't know. Win 1 game tonight, and it's Zach Gallen has not been Zach Gallen these playoffs.
Yeah.
And maybe tonight he gets to have his moment. Christian Walker has been out of sorts. He gets a couple hits yesterday. Like I hope that the little things from yesterday get to matter, whether it's Ryan Nelson, eating a bunch of innings, whether it's Christian Walker. I hope that if you can get it back to Texas starts to feel it a little more. Adolis is gone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy.
Is insane.
Yeah.
And Corey Seager has entered full-blown you can't pitch to him mode, and we found that out the hard way last night.
Right. I mean, is that if that's you, is that your game plan? Just to not?
You can't.
I mean, obviously you're going to try to pitch around him and not just directly walk him, not intentionally walk him. But I mean, I feel like you got to stay away from this guy
at this point,
and let someone else beat you.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
like whether it's Evan Carter, the kid behind him, whether whoever it
Mitch
is.
Garver.
I mean, even Josh Young,
let those guys beat you.
Those are good ball players, but Corey Seager has a World Series MVP in the bag, and he's been out of control.
Yeah,
he's out of control.
It's like he's growing stronger as the playoffs go on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and especially right now, I'm sure he feels, like that he has to pick up that slack of being the power hitter with Garcia out. But like we talked about last night, Jankowski was an absolutely stellar replacement, right? He comes go 2 for 4 with 2 RBI, 2 runs scored. So
you need to be splashing water. If you want to do the Jeffrey Mayer, if you want to do Jakey Mayer, just splash in some of that chlorinated hot tub water onto Jankowski.
I'll hold some in my hands, and then a fly ball will come, and I'll just do
throw
the little
there you go.
Hit him
free
with
the baby bird.
So I guess I got to ask. I know you've got a lot of love for these guys on the team, but has somebody like stood out to you that you kind of like really just become a fan of on this team throughout the season? I know it's hard not to be Corbin, but I know it's still there's still a lot of guys to choose from.
For me, so the conversation starts with Longoria just for two reasons. He's Trevor Plouffe, who do Talking Baseball with.
Yeah.
That's like his guy. He's like, that was like his role model when he was playing in the major leagues. And just seeing kind of like, all these athletes are wired a little different in different ways. Longo just leaning into Arizona, and he lives out here, and it's also just another thing that I've found, because whenever I open up Twitter questions or we do a voicemail episode, it's like, who are some of your favorite players right now? Like, it's so hard to idolize the younger guys.
Right. That's very true.
I just turned 34, so like, Gabby Moreno is awesome, but I don't have that same idolization when you're a kid and you're like, oh my God, look at this guy. Like I still, my body feels sore from a 5-hour flight. Evan Longoria is out there battling through a 162 season. So that one's not as new. I guess.
Merrill Kelly's 35.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy for Merrill Kelly because his season started, I don't want to say Team USA rosters came out and the rotation came out and it was like, wait, Merrill Kelly's the Team USA ace? And there's, I think more, people had a little too much fun with that. And to see Merrill Kelly be absolutely nasty these playoffs. I don't know. I guess Alek Thomas is the guy. I'm always going to have a sucker for defensive center fielders.
He's just incredible.
And to see him run into a couple balls, and the at-bats feel so locked in. Even against Heaney last night, he has those couple other way liners the other way. You hope that that's something he can build on. And, if he can become... If he's a league average hitter, the guy's a borderline all-star. So I've always got a sucker. I was going to say center field and third base, and that's what I listed off.
That's exactly what you listed
Tonight,
off.
keep your eye on the guy that we refer to as Jerry P. Geraldo Perdomo is
the mayor,
in the middle of everything.
He's the mayor.
He's in the middle of it all. He does it all. He's great defensively. Only 23 years old.
Bunt, the bunt king, or man. He was leaning into some balls early on this playoffs. I feel like they feed off him. He flips the lineup over. And, man, his at-bats for being a young shortstop especially, because shortstop needs to be measured on a different scale.
Yeah.
He's electric. And, I guess I'm a little spoiled. The one day I came in and went to a Snakes game this year, he was bopping around the field, and he's the king of the world. It was the NBA WNBA night. He was dapping up everyone. Like him and Sophie Cunningham are like shadow boxing each other, just having a blast. And you're just like, man, it must be pretty nice to be the starting shortstop at 23.
Yeah.
Great clubhouse guy. Like when you hear him post game, like he's Mr. Positivity, and you're like, this is a guy.
Yeah,
this is a dude.
We've said that. Like we almost want a Jerry P video to fire us up afterwards, just because it's so inspirational. Like he really does sound like it's fine. We lost tonight. We're gonna get him tomorrow. And that kind of thing. And with baseball, that's it. You have to have that mentality.
You have to.
You play 162 games almost back to back. Over the course of 6 months. It's just crazy.
It's crazy. Who was just talking about? I was listening to an interview about September baseball, and they're like, man, it feels like a fever dream. Like you're 6 months into traveling every day, and if your team's in it or not. But no, Perdomo, you could instantly, I'll give out 3 notes from my last trip. Perdomo before the game, hopping around, dapping everyone up, saying hi to anyone that would say hi, and you're like, you're the shortstop, like you need to be getting it ready. Corbin Carroll, as you guys probably know at this point, like he's kind of wired. That I think I showed up like an hour 45 minutes before the game time, and they were like, you're probably not getting Corbin. Like he goes into that mode, and I was like, okay, that's fine. And then follow-up shout-out to Evan Longoria. He was bouncing around. I think he had some family, so we only had said hi for a second. And he took the time after the game to send me a text and be like, hey, sorry I didn't get to say hi to you. Yeah, so just kind of cool. A nice dude.
Yeah,
You'll like this. We catching up with him with Jesse and Friedman about after the NLDS of like, well, who are the guys for you in 2008? Like, oh, man, who are the leaders in the clubhouse? Who are the Evan Longorias then?
Right.
Dropping an Eric Kinski, dropping a Cliff Floyd, and you go, oh yeah, Cliff Floyd was with the Rays there a little bit. That's kind of cool to know that he's like that elder statesman now for this club.
Yeah, man. I have such a respect. I'll call them the olds because that's a term that's been thrown around our office a lot these days. Man, if you're still doing this grind, all the respect.
That's impressive.
Yeah, especially performing at this level that he has been. I mean, some of those plays that he's made throughout this postseason are still very electric.
What's if I could turn on you guys for a second, what's the so we have a guy, Dalton Feely, who works for us. He's
we know Dalton.
Dalton's electric. He's a big of Snakes fan. You'll see he does our stat stuff. He's a football guy too. He's doing a little bit of everything. He's there's a couple moving parts in the Snakes lineup, depending lefty righty, Emmanuel Rivera, Alec Thomas. I guess what's your guys, if you're managing the Snakes, what's your one thing that you're like, I'm not a Rivera guy, or maybe I'm leaning into something more than what Torrey's been leaning into?
I think the Gabriel Moreno move, when they move him up higher up in the lineup. I mean, he hasn't been great in the World Series, but he has been great in the postseason. And so like Gabby was just such a big factor in them winning and their success. When you looked at the numbers with him in the lineup versus not in the lineup, it was like night and day at time. Yeah. And I mean, we're so thankful to have him here, because I don't know what our catcher situation would be like without him. Right. And I don't know what our future would be like without him. Now it's like, again, he is the pieces of the puzzle of that core with Corbin Carroll, with Alec Thomas, with Geraldo Perdomo, that you can build around for the future. And these guys are all about the same age. They're all about the same number of years under control. So, I mean, I think it really was giving the young guys that opportunity to bat where they should, moving Corbin Carroll up to either lead off or second, and, moving Gabby up. Like, I think those moves were exactly what I wanted to see from this team. And I mean, even Perdomo batting in the ninth hole, I don't hate it because of how productive he's been there. I mean, essentially he's been the most productive 9-hole hitter in franchise history.
He's contributing.
And it's weird because it does work. Like especially after you get through that first lineup the first time through, right? He's almost like another leadoff man now in front of Corbin or Ketel, depending on where they're at. So, but he's factored into the offense so many times throughout this offseason that everything's working. But yeah, just giving the young guys the time, moving them up, giving them those spots in the lineup.
P, baby.
He's so good. Other than maybe starting Alec Thomas against lefties earlier in the postseason, especially because you had a couple games where Tommy Pham's out in right field, you had a little turf toast kind of situation going on. That's a little suspect. I think Torey Lovello, it's been a masterclass for him. It's been a game of chess each and every series, and he's won that chess match. I doubt any managers going into a series going, the only way we can win is in 7 games. But I sort of feel that was the case with the Phillies of like, let's do a little rope-a-dope. Let's kind of let them feel good. We're not going to steal at all. Oops, Christian Walker stole a base and Lourdes Gurriel, but we're not going to steal at all. And then they lit it up in games 6 and 7. So it sort of feels like Torey has pushed all the right buttons. And, I don't think he's being outmanaged so far here by Bruce Bochy. But I think if anyone can, outmanage a guy who has 3 World Series rings and is headed for the Hall of Fame, I think Torey can still do that. And he's going to have to, down 3-1. Otherwise, Torey has just crushed it. I feel like he's kind of, besides some of the players who have broken out this postseason, have gotten some shine, I think he's really been kind of the centerpiece for this team going as far as they have this postseason.
Any issues with the way the bullpen was handled yesterday?
I mean, obviously it was one of those situations where I feel like he, I I guess you can only do that for so long, and especially when you need those guys in other capacity, you're throwing those guys out there quite a bit. So I feel like it just caught up with him. I think in hindsight, you could obviously say Ryan Nelson, with the way he pitched, would have been a much better candidate to go out there and start the game, but we don't know if it would have gone that same way with Ryan starting the game. Right?
I think the only thing you could potentially question, because it's two out, 5 run kind of rallies, which is great. Yeah. I think the only thing that can be truly questioned is sending man to play out for the second inning. I hated that. They wanted to get him through low and young doubles, and that, he ends up getting low, but you're not making that trade. And then Castro comes in with a runner on, and
he's bad.
As a Yankee fan, I've seen them give Castro experience. Sometimes you're like, why aren't you the best reliever in baseball?
No kidding.
And other times you're like, I don't want
you out there.
You're getting rocked or you're wild. So I fell into this the other day, and I don't want to be rude to him, but I think he's the first true 3 outcome pitcher. It feels like he's giving up a home run, he's striking you out, or he's giving up a walk.
Yeah.
I know that's obviously not where he lands, but it's like Joey Gallo pitcher feels. That when you're watching it, that's how you feel.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, you're about throw that change up to Bryce Harper and punch him out. You're like, you're gross.
This is
and then you see a pitch over the plate, and you're like, oh my god, dude.
This is about to be incredible or the worst thing that ever happened, right? No, and I mean, again, the bullpen, they just turned it around so significantly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it on the DNVR show today, but like they went from being a liability for this team to being one of its biggest assets, and I think that you can ride it for so long, but then it's not going to be perfect. You have too many variables because you have 6-7 guys now needing to have a good night instead of one guy having a mostly good night.
And I think I guess I haven't really gotten my head too much into tonight's game. I was like taking care of my whole life and getting out here, and now that I'm out here, I'm like, okay, so what's really going on? Gallen and them not having really used their A pen. That's gonna be very interesting, because that's your guy, right? He's the one that got you here. All of that. He's been the D-backs kind of guy, and he hasn't been great this postseason. And you haven't used your A pen, and it's a do or die game with an off day tomorrow.
Yes,
that's if he doesn't look sharp early, that's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be interesting.
The first inning is the biggest key. Like that's where.
Can't pitch to Seager.
You can't pitch to Seager. And you can't give up a run there either. You have to give the bats an opportunity. That was a lot of the momentum that the Diamondbacks had in the early going. It wasn't until their 5th postseason game in the NLDS, where they got to be back at home at Chase Field, that they had to play defense first, right? They were up first against Milwaukee in the first 2 games against the Dodgers. And so you have to post to 0 to get an opportunity to get a run against Eovaldi. We've said it this entire postseason. Every time it seems as if the Diamondbacks are going to win, like last night, you're like, you know what? They're going to win their bullpen game again. You fought over Scherzer. They're going to win that. They end up losing. And so tonight you go, big game Nate is on the bump for the Rangers, and Gallen has been, average at best this postseason. It probably seems as if the Rangers are going to win game 5 tonight, which is why they're probably not.
That's the way it
works.
That's
what it's been this whole postseason.
Well, last night was the first time they were favorites as far as the betting line goes, and then look at the way things go, right? So, of course. But, I mean, I did want to obviously talk to you. There's a couple of guys I still just can't get over what Ketel Marte has done this postseason. Not just this postseason, but dating back to the start of his postseason career, but now a 20-game hit streak in the postseason. And, I mean, at times it seems like he's just the best player on this team, just the most consistent guy. Everybody else gets their credit at times, but I feel like Ketel doesn't get that credit enough, considering how he just always seems to be locked in, even when they were losing games in July.
Yeah, and that's even a second ago I said Zach Gallen's kind of been the guy, right?
Yeah.
And pitching wise the past few years he has, but Ketel's been here for a while. He's played shortstop. He's played center. Yeah. He's been everywhere, and a switch hitting guy who's had speed and power and done it all. Yeah, he's a guy, and I say this with all due respect to my Snakes fans, but if he was a guy that had been on the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Cubs, I think people would just know him a lot more.
He'd be a superstar.
He's an electric talent.
Yeah.
He's an electric talent. I mean, he's on the exit velo like records every year with all these massive humans.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait, this guy just leans into him.
The other night, the double play, the 114 mile per hour off the bat, right?
So I'm glad that he's getting the shine and he's looking as good as he did, NLCS MVP and all of that. Like he deserves that, and he's kind of an all-time Snake great at this point, right?
And so much swag, by the way. He has an incredible amount of swag.
He is. Yeah, he's everything alike and nothing alike to DJ LeMahieu, where you're like complete opposite, but you put him in the right market and you go, damn, this guy can ball.
Yeah, he's a ball player.
I like my favorite Ketel is when he picks the hot shot a second and he just kind of sticks it for a second.
Yeah.
He sticks it for a second, lets everyone know I'm about to make the throw, and here we go.
Yeah.
I like that.
And the playful nature of him, like joking around with players, but still also trying to catch them should they step off base and get them that tag, gamesmanship. I love it. I'm with it. But yeah, I mean, these guys, it's just been incredible to watch this team come together. Like you said, Ketel has been a leader. And he would absolutely get that shine elsewhere. But like, again, there's just so much about this team that's been so fun to watch, especially in the playoffs. And you and I were talking about it as we walked up, but you can't say enough about this experience that these guys are getting and how they are learning to play under this pressure and step up in these big moments.
Yeah. And it's, there's a part of me that, there's some fun off-season topics. It's not for now.
Yeah.
But I think that these guys are getting it. Moreno's the one.
He really is.
Moreno's the one.
Yeah,
I think it's something I've been leaning into on Talking Baseball. I think the catcher position has been underrated, whether it's by WAR or whatever metrics you want to use. Like when you looked around throughout these playoffs, there was teams who either had one great catcher, or a lot of the teams had two catchers. Mm-hmm. Even just walking through my mind in the NL quickly, obviously what Gabby's been to this team, William Contreras in the first round. They had
Atlanta's two dudes.
Atlanta had two dudes, like Will Smith on the Dodgers. Like
very good.
When you started to look around the playoff picture, Houston has Maldonado, who's, he's just been their guy throughout it.
Yeah.
Yainer Diaz behind him had a historic catching season. So I think the catcher position as a whole, and I don't know, it almost feels like one of those things that it used to be known in baseball, like, well, you got to have a catcher. You guys got to lead the team, and you start talking Bruce Bochy like that. But like, we kind of got away from that. Like everyone got into numbers, and I think there's something with the catcher position that just needs to be looked into. Heim's awesome. Mitch Garver, technically a catcher, DHing for them. Adley Rusher. Like when I looked at the whole playoff format, I was like, holy crap!
Yeah.
Like I think there was 16 teams or however many we're doing in baseball now, 14, and there was like 18 good catchers, and I was like, like we need to circle that. So with that base, and obviously the other young guys around it, and like Lawler dipping the toe this postseason, and you hope that leads to another a follow-up era to this, and one of those fun stories in a couple years where it's like, Lawler got that one at bat in Game 4, and here he is.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right about Moreno. I mean, he, like, even with all these good catchers, he became the 7th player in MLB history to hit 4+ home runs in a single postseason as a catcher. And again, when you talk about like Zach Gallen tonight, we had a quote from him earlier on where he was just talking about that Moreno's in the trenches with you as a catcher, and you feel like you and him are just in the battle together. That's when you start hearing those kind of compliments. That's the kind of things that every pitcher wants to start working with him, and that really advances that relationship between the two of you.
Because of his age too, right? Like he's in that conversation where, I think, he was the first player to have more than one game as a catcher to hit third in a lineup, and you go, the youngest guy since Yadier Molina to start a game in the World Series. He homered, and so third youngest behind Buster Posey in 2010, and then a guy you might know, Lawrence Peter Berra, and you go, oh wow, this is an all-time class of guys, and he's just getting his career started. He's one to watch, no doubt.
Yeah, and I think for him getting this experience, I also love when a player, I don't want to say has one thing to work on this offseason, but for him, it's right on right at bats. Like first lefties, you hit like an MVP player. Defensively, it seems like you got everything figured out. That like, I don't know, you figure out how to handle that fastball slider a little better. And it is still a little crazy that, he's lined up in that 3-hole. But he was up to task last series. And I don't know. There's there's not Torrey has put on a masterclass, I think, and that's one of the secrets of how they've gotten here. Not a secret, actually, but yeah, I don't know when the Snakes felt like they might need a shuffle. There's only so many pieces to move. It's do you slide a Lourdes up or something like that.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
And it's if you do that, if you're sliding Christian Walker down, are you poking like the final pin in his balloon? Like, is that going to do more damage than good? And
well, he was 3 for 5 last night.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Like, so it feels like, especially after he got that first hit and things,
lead off double.
He did appreciate the ovation the fans gave him a little bit. I was a little anti that just because I don't know. I mean, I feel like that puts a little bit more pressure
Instant
on.
risk reward, right?
Like, but he seemed to respond well to it. But I mean, and again, this clubhouse, the locker room, these guys are just. They seem to really not only be vibing with each other, but the fans. Like it really feels like it's all coming together.
The building was awesome yesterday.
Yeah, it really was.
Obviously wasn't in it, and I'll
be
there in a little bit.
Yeah.
But to keep the spirit up, 10-0, 11-1. I hope that matters. I hope all the little things. Ryan Nelson, 5.1. I hope the crowd feeding off it. The bats getting hot late, not having to use your A-pen. Getting Leclerc in yesterday.
Yes.
That was
huge.
Unnecessary, but absolutely great for the Diamondbacks.
You hope that, and I hope for you guys, and I hope for myself, in 6 hours, 8 hours, we're saying that stuff mattered. That stuff mattered. It's going to Texas, and wow, Leclerc came in and he got knocked around, or he wasn't even in play because they've been using him and it was a tied game or something like that. Like, make those little things matter.
Tommy Pham goes for 4 for 4 and gives up his last at bat to his dog, Jace Peterson.
How about that?
I mean, I know it's a small example, and I know we've had a chance to see this team just doing. I mean, little things like that. That's obviously a huge thing. It's not just a little thing, right? You're literally sacrificing the opportunity at history, right? To let your guy get in at bat in a game that's essentially a blowout. But I mean, I feel like it means a lot about how this team feels about each other and who they are.
And yeah, I mean, Tommy Pham was, I don't want to say a controversial trade deadline move, but Tommy Pham has a little bit of a reputation around the league.
History.
You know, you slap a guy in the outfield once and everyone remembers that. And I think, was he stabbed too?
He was.
He has a nightclub
and a nightclub. Yep.
That and you know, he's an intense kind of personality that we do have a little Snakes corner at our office, and it was like, man, I don't know, like there's a lot of kids on this team. You're bringing in Tommy Pham, like is that, what does that really do? But it's done a lot. I mean, he's been in the middle of the lineup, and I mean, having a story like that you can lean into, where I thought it was beautiful, because just being, I think if you're on the outside, there was almost a little like, wait, does Torrey not know like Tommy Pham has 4 hits? Like, you know, I get, you know, you want to get Jace in the series or something, but you know, MLB history, blah blah. And then when he comes out and says that, you're like, damn, like there's some good juju going on in there.
Well, and I mean, again, there's something about Tommy Pham telling the young guys that they ain't shit in a really fun way, right? That's like, I think that at times this team really does clench up. You know, the moment kind of gets to them, and to have a guy like Evan Longoria there talking you through it, giving you advice, or just being there saying, this is fine. It's, you know, it's cool. Like we got Flex from Jersey that comes through here when I'm like hiding behind glass and stuff at like the 8th and 9th inning. And he makes me feel so good by putting his hand on my shoulder and telling me it's going to be good. We got this. We got this, bro.
Isn't it also, it's crazy that I feel like the way you're saying that, and I agree with you, it almost feels like defensive saying that nowadays, when that used to be like common, like kind of going back to what I was saying about the catcher, like, you know, the catcher kind of needs to be a team leader and they need to be a go-to. Like, you need veterans. Like, it matters. It matters. That used to be a common sports thing. And then again, I think we got a little too far into the numbers. Don't get me wrong. I love the numbers, and I think they can provide a lot of good. But when you put everything into numbers, you don't see veteran leadership, or I've been there. And, you know, Pham and Longoria feels like an awesome kind of veteran balance of like, I don't know. I don't want to make that teacher mad for one reason. I don't want to make that teacher mad for another reason. Yeah. And I don't know. It's worked.
Great buddy cop material.
Very true. Well, it's all part of that clubhouse chemistry that, you know, often gets like kicked to the side of like, this guy's just, you know, good for the clubhouse. But if they can bring something, you know, to the table, obviously that's huge. And I think, you know, Torrey is the one of saying, hey, bring this guy in to my lab. I'm a really good chemist.
I'll make it work.
I will make these chemicals work together. And that's part of the chemistry of Torey Lovullo, because Pham very much is welcomed by this group. I think it was, I don't think it was Daniel Diaz. It was the first round. They all posed for a picture. And then Tommy was the first one to break off, and he like looked at everyone like, right, guys, like I'm in this group. I was like, wow, that was a weird like little moment of like, wow, he's kind of finally being welcomed and he wants to be welcomed.
Yeah.
And Jace Peterson, they both came from opposite coasts and they link up and they're only teammates for 3 months. It's different when you come into Corbin Carroll's locker room or Alex Thomas's locker room or even Evan Longoria's locker room. For him to have that connection immediately with Jace, like everything's going right now.
Who's the pitcher he hit a homer with, and they did the sideline reporter with him, and they were doing it the mid game, and those have been kind of controversial or people aren't super about them. But it was my favorite note that he homered off a guy. They interviewed him, and he's like, "That's my guy," and they had been teammates. It was Evaldi. He got Evaldi, and they were teammates on Boston for like a month and a half.
Yeah.
And he's like, that was my guy Nate. So. And it was kind of like, wow, like it's one of those things you remember your little league when you got to hit off your buddy, and he's like, oh yeah, I just got my guy Nate in game 1 of the World Series. Like, what?
Well, that was what was wild was we met up with like Brandon Pfaadt's family before the game, and a lot of his teammates were here to support him there, and it was so cool because these guys, we talked to so many of them, and they were like, yeah, you just kind of knew. And that like we love this guy. We've supported him his entire career, but even when we were playing Little League together, it's like we were playing Little League. He was training for MLB even back then, right? Yeah, but I mean, Tommy Pham, I think again is when you have a clubhouse full of 23-year-olds. That's important. It is important to have that because no matter what you're paying him, no matter what it costs, you can't quantify the leadership that they bring to the young guys. And honestly, sometimes it's just small things like how to like prepare yourself for a game, how to react in certain situations
every day.
Just sometimes that I guess you have somebody that you can model after. You're like, I like the way he handles himself and
how to flush a loss.
That especially,
which
right?
The Diamondbacks absolutely needed when they finished the regular season, getting swept by the Astros, back into the postseason, getting down early against the Milwaukee Brewers and saying, yeah, we know how to fight. We can flush those things. Yeah. Sure. Baseball is all about failure. 7 out of 10 times you fail, you're going to the Hall of Fame. We all know this, but you need those veterans to point that out on a night in, night out basis.
Yep.
And for me, the one that rooting for the Snakes that I was like, damn, when they got swept in LA, I want to say it was in August. And it was it was big brother, little brother, man. It was you could see it on both teams. Like the Dodgers were looking at them like,
you ain't ready yet.
Hey guys, we're gonna do our thing. And then the Snakes were they were wide eyed, like holy crap, like we're not even in these games. And then to have the fortitude to press on and then give them the business in October. My goodness,
I know. It's
wow.
I mean, I heard again. I hate taking away from this run that they're on, but there were people that said like our World Series really was beating the Dodgers. Like, I mean, everything after that really has felt like icing on the cake. But now we want the whole cake. We want all of it: the icing, the sprinkles. We want the candles. We want the whole bit.
I saw there was a friend of mine who won't be named. They were looking at like the gambling odds, and in the 5-game series, you can bet like exact outcomes. Like, okay, Snakes win game 1, but Dodgers win in 5.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
You can. And he was looking at it. He's like, man, if I bet everything except the Diamondbacks winning in like 3 or 4, I think there's a way to make money on this.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, man, like knock yourself out. And then the broomsticks came out. Yeah. So that's and that put that in the story of everyone else trying to beat the casinos.
Yeah.
Still has never worked.
Still doesn't work. You still don't have a plan figured out.
Why not?
I just use my gambling to try to curse the opposing team. So I'm
there
gonna
you
keep
go.
doing that. But
it has worked.
The happiness hedges.
That's right.
Exactly. I've been doing a lot of that.
Hedges, yeah, but I know you have a pool to defend, so we're gonna let you get out of here. But we thank you so much for stopping by.
I'm gonna do my best.
Let's do it, man. Let's get this one tonight.
They've got the lifeguard shirt. Did you have to bring your own red Speedos, or are they providing that too?
So
use Baxter's Beat LA Speedos.
Make sure you check in. I have a red pair of shorts under these pants.
Let's go.
I wore most of the day yesterday because I was being like a fake lifeguard, and it was kind of almost like a promotion into today. But There's a part of me that feels a little disgusting right now. But in a Game 5, let's win way. In a gritty way.
You got to do it. You got to pull out all the stops, just like the team has to pull out the stops. We're here. We play for rings in the desert, right? Right? It's going to be Sexy Jake later, but he is Talking Jake. You can find him on Twitter at Talking Jake. No G there in the middle, but of course, you guys know I am at Cap_Caveman with a K. This maniac over here is at Patrick D. Lyons. Our producer is Damon. He is the people's producer. You can get him at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. We are all, including Jake, we're all Damon's dogs. Roof, right?
Arf, arf,
there we go. Of course, make sure to follow our show at PHNX_DBacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. We appreciate your time. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you defend the pool.
Yes. Yes, that should be everyone's goal. Meet me in the pool.
We all silly like the mayor.